charged in the fray. From the United States dawn to the kingdom's gray. A voice for the real, I'll never fold. On the airwaves front, my truth I hold.
I crossed the sea, left my homeland's light, to battle for truth in the kingdom's fight. They strike at dawn on PSB's early call. Time zones won't break me, I'll stand through it all. Ripples my fire, a coin to ignite, a future of freedom, I'll wage this fight. What's the cost to stand when the world's gone astray? Can a spark of truth light a darkened day?
No expense spared at this. Boom. Crypto, baby. It does. Base T, good evening. No.
A hard-earned refuge where my soul's set free.
Oh, beautiful.
The line holds firm. It's a spark we ignite. A blockchain's promise, our guiding light. This is Base Davey, unyielding I stand, shaping the future with truth in my hand.
Yeah, baby. Good evening, Base T. Thank you so much. Base T is a superstar this evening. In Rumble, in Foxhole, Pill.net, D-Live, baby. Base T.
Line holds firm, it's a spark we ignite. A blockchain's promise.
Yeah, baby.
Our guiding
Thank
light.
the good Lord in heaven above.
This is Based Amy, unyielding I stand, shaping the future with truth in my hand.
Yeah, baby. Do you know, I'm so pleased. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's the 23rd, Friday the 23rd of May, 2025. Based Amy here, coming to you live from the south coast of England. I'm just trying to find my wonderful studio backdrop, which is proving to be quite tricky to find. How we doing? Just made it in the nick of time. Tonight we're going to have a bit of fun. It's Friday, it's bank holiday weekend, yet another one. It seems like there's 3 in May. No doubt the dark forces of the 1%, they have some kind of ritual that they have to do this weekend. There's demonic activity. So much happening. I do, obviously, those of you from Wednesday, not sure, I didn't get feedback for the Wednesday show. Just wondering if how we felt. Do you think I was fair or not with the old David Clueless? Oh, hey, the new idea. We're going to be talking about that. Also, breaking news, unfortunately, tragically, we've had what appears to be an Aloha snack bar attack in Hamburg, Germany. So Germany, with, of course, the usual suspect of a white woman using some kind of sharp instrument to assault 12 innocent people at a train station. I mean, we know straight away it had to be a white woman, right? I mean, come on. What else could it be? Who else could it be? What? No. We're not going there. We're not going. No. We're not going to go there to the Aloha Snack Bar. Come on. I think that's very unfair. I think we should not pick on the bleeding obvious, should we? No, we should. Yes, we should. And you know, everybody is so scared of their bloody shadow in today's world. They really are so scared for their YouTube channel to be taken off air because they don't want to say, oh, I just did that. They don't want to say that, of course, Islam strikes again. Now, of course, I'm going to say I haven't actually seen evidence of the horrendous alleged attack. I don't know. Nowadays, they could just be saying it and they think they're going to get people incensed and taken to the streets. It's not going to happen. They don't have to worry about that. Now, again, nowadays, today, in today's world of AI, we are being fooled by AI. People are believing statements, believing footage, and tragically, because of AI, we're now having to look very, very closely and try to second guess. Now, if anybody has a link to any of the footage from Hamburg, I'd appreciate it. I would appreciate it. Now, tonight, I will be finishing off my my critique of the David Clueless of Clueless Unity News Network, okay, because, I just find him so obnoxious. And he wouldn't dare, of course, because he does not have, even though he claims to have the cojones, he does not have them to have me. I mean, I wouldn't want to go on a show anyway, to be honest. He is such a very unpleasant man. Mr. Pete, thank you so much for the can. Welcome. Thank you. And speak kindly. Welcome to you too. And Foxhole, I like calling it Foxhole, even though it's actually called pill.net. It is still called the foxhole.app. So, still quite confusing. Anyway, let's see. Snapbrim Handcrank. You have provided me with an X post. Let's take a look. What have you given me a link to? Question. What did you give me a link to, Snapbrim? Charlie Kirk? Wait a minute. I don't know what that's about. It would be helpful if I asked for a link to an event. I mean, I see a link. This is the link that I'm clicking on that Snapbrim Handcrank gave me. I've got Katie Hopkins saying, "My dear Charlie Kirk, US Brits love the very bones of this country. We feel our people in the stones in the soil. But you're right, we are dying. We feel the pain of it with every breath we try to steal back from the butchers in power." You really say that? Charlie Kirk says, "If you want to renew your love of America, spend 3 days in the UK. You will kiss the ground when you get back home." Yeah, it's so sad. It is. But it's been all done by design. Okay, Tony Blair really kicked it into full bore back in 1997, and they've never looked back. The UK is now officially a shithole country in major cities. There are very few major cities in this country that aren't tainted by the multicultural curse that has been inflicted on the people of this country, the good people of this country. Anyway, so tonight I'm going to do this story. Let me just say to you, right, I'm skeptical about everything now. Skeptical about the Jewish attack, museum, the 2 Jewish people. I haven't seen any footage there that would tell me that. A lot of times now, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, let me just, from my opinion of all that I've seen and done, you have to see actual footage. Nowadays, the fake stream media news can say this happened and not actually show you any footage. And they will spread it around the world. Everybody will repeat it, and they don't even have to bother with any footage. For a narrative, for an agenda. Okay? Agenda driven. So let's just take a look. Here's the article. I'm going to do this. I'm going to touch on Donald Trump doing executive orders. Very important executive orders he did today. There's some kind of very suspicious protests going on, apparently, this weekend. I meant to mention this some time ago. A group that I'd never heard of sprang out of nowhere, suddenly had thousands of followers, and knowing what I know about protests and how hard it is to arrange things and get things done, or to start a new website, start a new X account. What I found very suspect about the Great British National Strike, which, let's see, how long have they had? They joined August of 2024, so this account is less than a year old. And they have 18,000 followers. And it says GBN Strike, the official account for the Great British National Strike. Now, apparently tomorrow, nationally, there's going to apparently be a strike all around the country, which, to be honest with you, I didn't realise. But I don't have an awful lot of details, but I'm very suspicious about this kind of random appearance from somebody I'd never heard of. And I think he was on GB News earlier tonight talking about it. Stop the far right in your area. Okay, there we go. We have the anti-protest up, ready to challenge. I tell you, the country's a mess. This country is an absolute mess. And the problem, one of the big problems we have, is that people who are meant to be concerned about this country do, and I'm going to show myself to be very naughty now. Oh, I see. Thanks, Snapgram. It was about Katie Hopkins saying about saving the UK. Is that there seems to be an undermining of messaging. There seems to be there's a very, very strong force of people against good, concerned men and women. And the issue we have, because of the nature of social media and 24/7 news cycles, and now, of course, everybody's attention spans being very short, and the advent of TikTok and the shorts videos and the snippets here and there, it's very difficult to get people on the same page and to even know what's going on. So here we go. Look at this. Locations confirmed, 12 o'clock, Saturday, 24th of May. This is the official list for the Great British Strike, with every city confirmed. From Aberdeen, Armagh, Bangor, Bath, Belfast, Birmingham, Bradford, Brighton, Bristol, Cambridge, Canterbury, Cardiff, Carlisle, Chelmsford, Chester, Chichester, Colchester, Coventry, Derby, Doncaster, Douglas. Douglas is on the Isle of Man. Dundee, Dunfermline, Durham, Edinburgh, Ely, Exeter, Glasgow, Gloucester, Hereford, Inverness, Kingston upon Hull, Lancaster, Leeds, Leicester, Lichfield, Lincoln, Lisburn, which is in, I don't know where the hell that is, to be honest with you, somewhere in England, BT28, 1AG is the postcode, Lisburn, sorry I said that, Liverpool, London, Westminster, outside Downing Street. I'd rather be there than Brighton, to be honest. Londonderry, Manchester, Milton Keynes, Newcastle, Newport, Newry, Norwich, Nottingham, Oxford, Perth, Peterborough, Plymouth, Portsmouth, Preston, Ripon, Salford, Salisbury, Sheffield, Southampton, Southend-on-Sea, St Albans, St Asaph. I don't know how to pronounce that one. St Asaph. I'm going to repost this on my X account, which is Amy Awakened One. St David's, Stirling, Stoke-on-Trent, Sunderland, Swansea, Truro, Wakefield, Wells, Westminster, Downing Street again. So we've got two. I mean, they've got Westminster, Downing Street. They've doubled up on that one. Maybe there'll be two people there. Winchester, Wolverhampton, Worcester, Wrexham, and York. Now, I'm going to say again, very, very suspicious about this. I sense you know what it is? I just know that there are not enough people, good, regular people out there who are going to appear to this. It's going to be a psyop. I'm going to say it. I'm very skeptical. There's going to be a lot of cameras, photographers there snapping the police. There's going to be an incredible turnout of the police. In fact, there'll probably be more police than protesters, to be honest. I don't know. Maybe I'm being unfair because I haven't been paying too much attention to this. I'm going to say I have a red flag. My spidey senses are that this is too well organized, too quickly, with too many people, and you just... I mean, maybe it's me. Maybe it's me. Maybe I just have not been paying attention. I'll repost this just to show you. But, you know, it's tomorrow, 12 o'clock. It's supposed to be a national... This is the official list for the Great British Strike, with every city confirmed. And, of course, I'm concentrating a little bit on this because it's obviously going to go on tomorrow. Tommy Robinson's final message from inside prison. The Tommy Robinson question is, I'm sure many of you are paying attention. It seems like he's potentially going to be let out of prison just to be arrested again and then put back in prison. You know, the powers that be seem to want to try to get an uprising, which they're not going to get, so they have to make one up. They have to create with false undercover police, lefty lunatics, and cameramen in the right place to snap the pictures. They're trying desperately to get the British people, the English people riled up to take to the streets so that they can clamp down and declare that there's a very terrible, extreme right-wing, horrible people who must be punished. And they're just going to sweep up all the people. They're emptying out the prisons to fill them up again. So, I don't know what's going on with Tommy. I haven't been paying too much attention. There's just so much going on that I'm not sure whether he's been released, or he's not going to be released. But it's a major stitch up. And he needs to learn about the 12 presumptions of law. Okay? Tommy needs to find out about the 12 presumptions of law, or the 12 presumptions of court, whichever way you want to look at it, and really just go there. Because if he goes on the way he is, well, he's never going to come out. He's never going to get out of prison because the powers that be don't want him out. I'm just trying to see if I can find this quickly, this paper that I'm referencing. I don't know if it'll show up. No, it won't show up. Let me see. 12 presumptions of law. Anyway, so quick. I want to get on. Let me just... Here we go. 12 presumptions of court. So this is what I'd love somebody to get to Tommy. Because, of course, I can't communicate with Tommy Robinson. I'll put this link in the chat. And if somebody wants to share it or put it out there, he needs to just get this on board. Know that, you know, he's going to be screwed for the rest of his life now because none of these presumptions have been challenged by him, and he has to do it. He can't have a barrister do it because the barrister's duty is not to embarrass the court or the king, right? So, Tommy, I hope he gets out for his family's sake. I'll be keeping an eye on what he's up to and just hope for the best. Now, let me see, Hamburg. Let me just... Oh, wait. The Great British... Just want to quickly look at this. Great British National Strike 2025. Again, looking for tomorrow. Let's see.
Here with me today, it's Richard Donaldson of the Great British National...
Richard Donaldson. I never heard of the man. Apparently in charge of this Great British National Strike. Put a 1 in the chat if you think this is a setup for, the powers that be to come after whoever's out there standing up for this. Let me just quickly say what the main topics of this. Sorry, I didn't cover it properly. I've been brushing over it rapidly. I'm speaking very quickly because I'm trying to get on with things. But I want to read out the main. Where's the thumbnail for this? Trying to find the thumbnail. Oh, man. Oh, Keir Starmer issued stark warning as 500,000 Britons set to walk out. Keir Starmer issued warning. Oh, is this the ad for it?
Hello, welcome back. Now, over 500,000 people are attempting to shut down Britain nationwide this weekend.
Yes, the major strikes could last all summer. The end goal,
What?
they want a general election.
Well, we're joined by the organiser of the Great British National Strike, Richard Donaldson. Richard, good morning. Just explain, please, what this strike is, why you're spearheading it, and also I'd like to know your political background or persuasion, because typically we hear of striking, but it's from the left side of the argument. Just explain, please, for our viewers what's going on.
Yeah, so many people probably would call me more sort of to the right wing. I'd like to not get too much into the politics, my personal politics, because this is a movement about unity, okay? So, yes.
I'm afraid I can't get this thing any bigger than it is. I don't know why. It's on a miniature screen. Bizarre.
Great British National Strike. I've called it a strike, even though, yes, it is a protest, but there's been a few sort of legal obstacles that I've had to navigate. I'm a nobody, okay? So trying to break through an algorithm on TikTok, Facebook, X, and all the rest of it, when I start using the word protest as somebody who nobody knows, the algorithm cuts you straight back, okay? So you don't get that exposure. So I've had to call it a strike for many reasons. But we are essentially a movement, okay? And it is going to be taking place tomorrow at 12 p.m. in every city centre across the UK. Now, we stand against illegal immigration, net zero, inheritance tax and the attacks on our farmers, the attacks on our most vulnerable, the lack of inquiry into rape gangs, the attacks on free speech, two-tier justice. But what I would say is this, okay, and I've maintained this throughout. Anybody is welcome. If you are a legal citizen of this country, okay, whether you're black, white, whether you are on the left wing of politics, the right wing, whether you are religious, whether you're Sikh, Hindu, Muslim, whatever, it doesn't matter, okay? If you are a legal citizen of this country and you are fed up of the way things are going, please, please join us.
Now, when you say fed up with the way things are going, what specifically do you mean?
My God, I mean, take your pick, Nana. We've got, 14.3 million Brits living below the poverty line. We've got 4 million children going to bed hungry every single night. Fuel debt on average now in the UK is £1,094 per household. Okay, we're £12.1 trillion in national debt. If you spread that out amongst our tax-paying citizens, that's what, £180,000 per person. At the same time, we're paying £8 million a day just on hotels for illegals. We spent £16 billion last year.
Okay, no, I wish I hadn't asked now. It's a really long list. But, okay,
sorry.
you are right.
There's so much. There's so much.
But Keir Starmer would argue, and his party would argue, look, we won a landslide, unprecedented general election, which gave us literally the most seats that anyone has ever had, and therefore we have a mandate to do the things we're doing, even though they weren't in our manifesto, many of them.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? I mean, if you got a job based on lies on your CV and you got caught out on those lies and you didn't do the things that you said you were going to do and you didn't have the intentions that you set out when you applied for that job, you'd get sacked pretty quickly, wouldn't you?
Okay, so anyway, I don't know this guy. I don't know what the deal is. I haven't heard much about him. He already said he's a nobody. It's all very good. If this was, I just feel suspicious. Okay, as you know, to organize something like this, it's you just don't have the resources. I don't know where he's got the money from for the advertising. Again, if I've just been missing it and he's been doing this for ages and he's managed to raise the funds, then fine. But I'm just going to say I'm very suspicious. I don't know what to do tomorrow. Should I go to Brighton? Should I go to Brighton, my local town, to see what's happening and cover the story? I'm not going to London. I'm going to London. Anyway, so that's tomorrow. Is anybody going who's in the chat? Is anybody planning to go to attend? I might just do it for fun. Go to Brighton, see what's going on. I'll probably be the only one there, to be honest. everybody's so caught up in their own world, right? In football, everybody's in their own space. I mean, I had a conversation today with a stranger. I was at a friend's place who was celebrating a birthday, and it just so happened that this woman showed up, a friend of hers, and I don't know where the conversation, how it started, but she suddenly said, I think this friend of mine said how Donald Trump was doing something good, doing well. And of course, naturally, the woman turned her nose up and went, oh, Donald Trump, and dismissed it and said he's terrible. He's terrible. Typical fake stream media news, her mind. And I thought, it's incredible that the man has been in office he's been in office now for 124 days, President Trump. He's achieved more. He achieved more in his first week than most in 4 years, but he achieved more, and he has achieved more, and he still is achieving more for the benefit of the American people and many people around the world than any president in history. Or any leader. And yet, it shows how strong the fake stream media is. It shows how much of a stranglehold they have on the narrative and propaganda. It is truly, it's just horrifying. Anyway, I'm not gonna belabor the point, because I really do want to do. The thing is, I did pretty much cover what's his face, David Clue's awful interview, so to speak, that he did the other night with David Betts. I can't believe I got as far as I did. Hey DWB, lovely to see you. Thank you for joining tonight. There's about 20 minutes left of his discussion with this poor guy. And trust me, I have no time for professors, okay? If anybody says they're a professor to me, usually the first thing I'll do is roll my eyes, because in today's world, if I hear professor, I instantly think lefty, and, But what I found really struck me as very odd. And I say, this is a kind of individual, David Clues, that in the world of what we're in with the protests and alternative media, this country in England does not have a lot of people who will stick their head above the parapet. There's not a lot of people who were sort of around doing events during the lockdown and other things, right? So when you meet somebody, and of course I've known this David for years, since I don't know if it was when I stopped the prayer in Speaker's Corner, or if it was after I got knocked out. I can't remember when it was that he spoke to me. But I told him about Islam. And his resistance, and his defense, and his pushback was very odd. And I thought, okay, it's going to take him a little while. But once he takes a look for himself, he'll get it, and he'll know. And the history of what's been going on in this country, what's been going on wherever Islam goes, he'll get it, right? And he'll see. I've got to stop that music. He'll get it. But you know what? Something very suspicious. And again, I'm quite trusting. I'd like to give people the benefit of the doubt. If they seem genuine. But there's something very, very, very odd about David. And I'm afraid well, he's terrible. I haven't decided. He's a lefty, but he's apparently extreme right wing. He's called extreme right wing. And, of course he's not. If anybody who references something called extreme right wing as if it's a thing is is very suspect to me, because the only people who reference the so-called extreme right wing are lefties. And I would consider myself on the side of right, as in liberty, justice, and all the rest of it. So if I was to choose a side, it would be right wing. Certainly not extreme right, whatever the hell that is, extreme right wing. The left is the problem, really a big problem, major problem. The undermining of the values in this country has been, you know, an intentional thing. This David Clues is such a disgrace. I don't know his game. I haven't figured him out, although it just seems like he is very much a... Again, I don't like using some of these words, but it's like it's his job to undermine those who are trying to speak up for the people of this country. And he has a thing about calling this a counter-jihad group. Now again, as somebody who doesn't like jihad, me, I just didn't know there isn't a counter-jihad, but David's labeled people counter-jihad, which I think, again, is a very odd label. And if David has derision for people who he calls counter-jihad, such as Tommy Robinson, I can't remember the names now. I don't know if Paul Joseph Watson would be considered one of those. Douglas Murray, right? Who talk about the problem and the danger from Islam, which is a real and present danger. In fact, just look at Hamburg today, and of course nothing's been confirmed, and the fake streaming news is going to deny anything has any connection to wait, I'm going to do it, it's on X actually, going to have anything to do with Islam. It's going to be, they're going to try desperately to portray it as a, well, just anything but a Muslim. Oh, is it this one? Oh, Balderdash. Wait a minute, I've been signed out from, hang on. I've been signed out of X. Hang on, let's see if I'm on X on here. Hold on. All right, I'm going to do David, right? I'm going to do it. I've got to finish it, and then I'll get on. Damn it. The problem is that I have, right, is I've had a very busy week. I've had a very busy day. So much going on that I have not been able... What the hell is that? I've not been able to get everything in order. I've got to find my bookmarks. I don't know. See, I get distracted, which is what the idea is, right? By post. So let me get to my bookmarks. I've reposted that. The topics for tomorrow: illegal immigration, net zero, inheritance tax, rape gang inquiry, freedom of speech, and reversal of benefit cuts. Right. Let me get the Hamburg. That was Israel Museum, which looked a bit dodgy. So this is Hamburg. So far, it says 3 people are in critical condition, 3 more seriously injured, and 6 with minor injuries. A woman has been arrested in connection with the attack. So this, I mean, I don't know about you, but that looks like a bloke to me. Hood over the head, 6 seconds of a video. That's the idea, right? Just give a snapshot. Don't have it any long play. Just don't have any sort of enough time for things to people to absorb. A 6-second clip is hopeless. But so here we go. Oh, and the bloke filming just happens to say Hamalula la. Bit like hello, slack bar, Islam. So it just so happens that a Muslim was filming this 6-second clip of apparently somebody being taken to a car, but there's no context, right? We have one image of somebody on a stretcher. I see no signs of blood. Looks like they've got their hands over their head. Blurred image. Right, so one person there. This says Hamburg HBF in the background, number 13 and 14. So apparently at a train station. Motive unclear. Well, look, the motive is clear, right? It's jihad, Islamic jihad. It's so clear, it's not funny. And prove me wrong. If this happened, because I need to see more footage. Again, we have a group of police and firemen just kind of gathered round something. Oh, somebody who looks like, actually here, I can see them now. A black guy who I can see is sort of what looks like a bit of a bandage around the top, and a lot of people standing around, which is what they're very good at, the emergency services, a lot of standing around. They like to have lights flashing. And that's it. That's all I'm seeing. So if anybody has any more footage, I cannot conclude or deduce much from this. These are the three that are the popular pictures circulating around. I've yet to see anything else. I haven't seen carnage. I haven't seen bodies. I haven't seen video footage, phone footage, Hamburg. Just the 6 seconds of somebody randomly being taken to a police van. Good friend Joey Manarino, 12 people were just stabbed at a train station in Hamburg, Germany. Don't you just love diversity? If a migrant isn't raping you like a savage animal, they're stabbing you while shouting Aloha Snackbar. Germany was once a proper country. Hamburg knife attack. Here we have again. Do you see this? This is all by design, right? These short clips. No other footage. Just the same. That's it. One picture there. This 6 second clip, that clip, that's very suspicious to me. Oh, and that image there, which is, again, no, okay, so it looks like maybe this happened on a train. Maybe it happened on a train. This train is stopped, the door's open. I don't see anything on the station. Lots of police standing around, as they do. Alright, so I don't know. The story will unfold, whatever it is, but you know, it's no big surprise. We've been, Europe and the West have been totally inundated since 2015. 10 years of a mass influx of humanity from the third world who have a very different way of handling things and thinking of things and processing things, very different culture, and a lot are seemingly follow an ideology that is antithetical to the Western one, to the Christian one, which they follow Islam. And Islam is a death cult. It is just very against everything that good moral people believe in. It's a barbaric belief system and a death cult, and it's got no place here. And anybody who defends it, anybody who defends Islam, you got a question, especially if they're not Muslim, okay? And so I'm going to come back round almost full circle to someone I was talking about at the beginning. This man right here, David Clueless, very suspicious. His desire to protect, to defend, to push back on anyone criticizing, suggesting that that's the major problem in this country of the violence. All he wants to do is talk about Zionism. Zion, the people pulling the strings. So weird. It's not myopic, it's multi-faceted. And the people who are running around, driving around, who are committing all kinds of heinous crimes, happen to be Muslim. Because they're carrying out jihad. That is their job. Come in, take over, conquer. So, anyway, it was 20 minutes left of this very painful interview for this David Betts. David Betts, a professor of civil wars. He does studies. He's done papers on civil wars. And I guess one of his papers that really seemed to, or triggered David Clueless, was one about saying that civil war was imminent. Tipping point had been passed, and here we go. So you can catch. If you go to my Rumble channel, you can watch the first 3/4 of this. And then, so what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to finish this off of this last 20 minutes with David just being so disrespectful. As I said, it's a professor. I don't agree with what he's saying necessarily. Some points are accurate. So it's not, the reason why I'm doing this is not because I fully back this professor. The reason I'm doing this is because I want to show this man the fraud that he is, David Clues. Okay? Here we go. So, about 20 minutes left of this video. Here we go.
You have used the words wet dream, fantasist.
Because, but it is, David, people shouldn't be dreaming of an upcoming civil war. And look, you might then say to me, well, David Clues, you're just dampening people's spirits. Well, I love this country and I only care about this country. I don't want to see it descend into a civil war.
By the way, this is a fantasy that David has, okay? He seems to think that people who are concerned about the state of this country, and because Islam is becoming so powerful and so threatening to many, because you criticize it and are pointing out that there is a major problem, the elephant in the room. David has, and this professor did papers. I say, I've got the. Let me just quickly say, right? I have published on my website, basedamy.com. I have linked his articles to do with what he says is a surefire upcoming civil war. I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to see that there's going to be horrendous bloodshed on the streets if nothing major is done to push back against the Islamic jihad that is being waged. The problem is our government is encouraging it, the police protect it, the courts protect it. This country is in big, big trouble. And somebody like David Clues really gets on my nerves because he's defending it, and he pushes back and calls people all kinds of weird stuff because they're talking out about Islam. It doesn't mean they want war. They don't want a civil war. They're speaking about it because they're afraid that one's going to happen. And the people who are going to initiate it are obviously going to be the jihadists. Okay? So beneath his video, I've got a few clips actually. A few clips on here, points at which I start, where David's arrogance shows up in this bit. David co-opts his anger for their own Israel. These are clips I've added. But these articles from David Betts are "The Future of War is Civil War," and the links are there. Civil War Comes to the West from 2023. Civil War Comes to the West Part 2. Strategic Realities. This was posted or dated, published this year, 2025. And apparently he did an interview or chat on a podcast called Maiden Mother Matriarch with a woman by the name of Louise Perry. And for a reason that didn't become clear with David, he just became very incensed, and he is trying to suggest that the professor is wanting civil war just because he's talking about it. But his job is as a professor of civil wars. And to say how they tend to break out. It doesn't mean he wants one. And that seems to have passed by David's couple of brain cells that are clacking together every now and again. Here we go.
I am arguing that our very...
Neither do I. But that doesn't make a difference.
Okay.
You know,
but can
I'm
you
not saying that I
acknowledge
want
your
this.
talking point?
Not the fact that when one does any any kind of strategic analysis, you're not asking for wars to occur.
Correct.
Yeah, but the fact is, you have gone very specifically on podcasts of all these groups of people. So you've not gone and taken this
and onto yours.
And I'm very appreciative that you've gone and done that, but I'm the first person that's actually questioned you on it or offered an alternative.
No, but the specific tenor of your questions actually is really quite different. I mean, you've hardly asked me very much about the thesis itself. You've mostly wished to explore my hidden agenda, which there is none, and made remarks about other people whom I am not.
Well, these people's agenda isn't hidden, though. These people's agenda is pretty out in the open, exactly what they want and exactly their role as they play. And I'm just asking, can you not acknowledge that this certain group of people have been the ones that have fully taken up your analysis and pushed it?
What? Pushed it? What do you mean?
I cannot speak for Douglas Murray because I haven't spoken to Douglas Murray. I haven't been on his podcast, if he has one. The people I've spoken to are Louise Perry and Peter Whittle. There have been many other people who have asked me to speak who I've not decided not to speak to. I'm not a public figure. I don't spend my
Thank you, Sean Joe.
Speaking to
For the
camera,
cookie.
doing podcasts is a new experience. But I can't speak for these people's intention. The fact of the matter is, like you, there are people who read the paper that I wrote or heard things that I spoke of, thought it was interesting, asked me to speak, and I spoke to in good faith. Exactly the same situation as the sequence of events that resulted in our discussion this evening.
Do you know what I'm going to say to you? Again, if those listening, put a 1 in the chat if you could see that the professor has written papers to do with civil wars and has studied for 25 years, put a paper together to say that there's a very close resemblance. He basically thinks that this country, I mean, I don't agree with him, just so you know, I don't agree that we're on the verge of a civil war. The only in my observations, the dangers are going to be from Islam. Islam is going to be the tipping point. They're going to attack. English non-Muslims are going to have to defend themselves, and that will be called a civil war. The government is going to protect Islam for as long as they want to. You know, it's obvious. It's just that we've got all these people in hotels that shouldn't be here who are Muslim majority all over the country. Why? What are they waiting for? Why are they here? There's no wars going on in the world. They could all go back to their home countries. They're here because the government of this country has brought them in, and not to make us a cup of tea, right? So this professor's just simply written papers about civil wars and comparing what's going on now to the potential, and he's been asked to talk about it with people, and they're clueless. David Clues has leapt into this bizarre mental state of suggesting that because somebody's read this man's papers on his theories, that is going to trigger a load of English people to suddenly take to the streets with pitchforks and have a war against his precious jihadis. I mean, it's just... So I think, it's really so weird. Talk about a stretch. He likes to accuse the professor of a stretch, but David stretches things beyond the beyond. I mean, it's just onto another whole level of stretching.
And I value that you're prepared to do that. I'm just asking, have you stopped to think about who these people are and why they might be doing that?
No, I haven't. No.
So sorry, I'm going to let it play in a minute, okay? I just have to quickly give the background. So basically this professor, from what I can understand, has written his paper. People who are of similar concerns, have similar concerns with regards to the potential for civil war, see that where the obvious threats are coming from, which is Aloha Snack Bar Jihad. Just invited him on and talked about his paper and his theory and just discussed it. And that's it. No hidden agenda, no nefariousness, no intent to plot of any description whatsoever. where David gets the idea that this is, it's beyond me. He's paranoid, or he's doing a job to try to just put a negative message out there against anybody who decides to suggest that Islam is a problem.
No, I haven't. Just as I didn't sit down when asked by when I received an email from David Clues asking if I would come on his podcast. I didn't think about his hidden agenda. I assumed that this was a person who wished to hear about the subject on which I'm expert. The subject on which I am not expert, for the record, is the influence of Tel Aviv on Western policy, or
What was that about? Why was he laughing at that? What was that about? That little sudden giggle was just so rude. It was either because the man said Tel Aviv, so Israel, which is my Zionism, which is David's just absolute, I don't know what it is, or he had somebody in the chat say something that made him laugh.
The intentions and ideas of the people whom...
Sorry, I interrupted him. Let me try not to interrupt this so much. I'm sorry. My apologies. So let me just put this back a little bit, and I promise I'm going to let him make a statement and just let it play a little bit more so you can actually get some context. It's just obviously I've listened to this a couple of times and it just gets on my nerves. So I will let him speak.
There are people who read the paper that I wrote or heard things that I spoke of, thought it was interesting, asked me to speak, and I spoke to in good faith. Exactly the same situation as the sequence of events that resulted in our discussion this evening.
And I value that you're prepared to do that. I'm just asking, have you stopped to think about who these people are and why they might be doing that?
No, I haven't. Just as I didn't sit down when asked by when I received an email from David Clues asking if I would come on his podcast. I didn't think about his hidden agenda. I assumed that this was a person who wished to hear about the subject on which I'm expert.
I do have to say, you shouldn't say you assumed, because you know what happens when you assume something. Yes, it makes an ass out of you and me. So that was a poor choice of words that he used, but David had a hidden agenda, and a blatantly obvious one, and had no intention of discussing the professor's paper. All he wanted to do was use him as a tool to launch an attack on people who won't give him the time of day, because he's just a very nasty piece of work.
The subject on which I am not expert, for the record, is the influence of Tel Aviv on Western policy, or the intentions and ideas of the people to whom I have spoken. I speak for myself, and I have come to the conclusions that I have done for the reasons that I've explained. I don't want to be drawn on matters that I'm not expert in, or I don't have reason to render an opinion.
Well, my my advice, if you're interested in listening, is I would be very wary of these people and their agenda, because they will use what you're saying because they have a very, very, very specific agenda, and I think it's one that's to the detriment of the British people. And as I say, my point does remain. I am very skeptical that you are able to speak like this and not face any consequences for it. Can you understand why I'm saying that? Is that a fair comment?
I've heard people say that, and I would invite you to go and look at the King's College London Charter and what it says there about the responsibility of academics to address controversial ideas. That is what I'm doing. I feel that I am acting as a scholar within my area of expertise and not being drawn, despite many attempts, frankly, which are getting extremely wearying, to render opinion on issues that are not in my area of expertise. Fact of the matter, my area of expertise, as I said, is internal conflict, insurgency, civil war.
Yeah,
I
but-
have, and there are other matters that you wish to draw me on that I don't wish that I.
Yeah, but
I don't have an opinion.
you have
or I
not
certainly don't
answered
have
my
an
question
opinion
about
on that I
how
think needs
people
to
make
go
the move
online.
from being pissed off about the government to then going and shooting judges to assassinating politicians. I've said to you, it's a bit of a stretch.
The fact of the matter, simply
How's that
empirically,
happening?
historically, is it states that countries go into civil war. Civil wars exist, and they arise out of certain conditions. Yes, they are states of extreme abnormality where normal people are doing outrageous things. That is that is what they are by definition. There's nothing biblical or God-given or special about the UK that makes it different in that respect from Guatemala or El Salvador or Italy in the 1970s and 80s or other countries or this country indeed.
Well,
in other periods,
I would take issue with
what
that.
you're
We are not
expressing is
Guatemala.
very
We're the
strange
United
normalcy.
Kingdom. We're the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. We're not Guatemala.
We're not Guatemala.
We're not El Salvador. We're not Venezuela. I like to think we're a civilized society based on law and order, where we actually don't go around killing each other.
No, it's not us who are doing the killing of each other occasionally, but it's Aloha Snagpar, Islam, right? Kills us and wants us dead. Not everybody, not all of them, but that's the idea. I mean, the agenda is clear. It's been stated on many occasions, chanted on many occasions. So just with these, he's specifically talking about, he's taking it personally. David Clues is taking what this professor's written about personally. And of course, this country is not in a state where somebody's just going to randomly go and attack a judge or randomly go and firebomb anything. Well, there's no way. Nobody of this country is anywhere near that. What he said was it happens in other countries. That's what happens, is that people tend to go and, they're so disgruntled and disgusted, whatever, that's what usually happens. It's a theory, a thesis, whatever. So it just really, David is just so desperate that he's had to get this poor sod on. And then he's trying to do an argument through him towards Douglas Murray or Tommy Robinson. I mean, it's just bizarre.
I think we're better than that.
That's not the point, you poor pillock.
Okay. That's a very valid point of view. Thank you for sharing it.
And I hope that we maintain those standards and we don't.
I hope that we do too, David. Thanks very much. That's really a statement of the blindingly obvious that is shared between us.
Boom.
Well, and as I say, you say that that's the direction of travel, but I just don't see I don't see the
you don't buy it. You
don't
find
buy
it
it,
kind of
no.
a stretch.
I don't buy it.
Okay.
I don't buy it.
All right. Mm-hmm.
And what you've had so far is, as I said, people who have bought this, who buy it because they're selling a very specific product, and because they are very dodgy, and they are pushing an agenda. That's why they buy this.
What agenda?
And I don't need you to comment on that or offer it. That's my argument. And these people are destabilizers for very specific reasons. And as I said, it's not in the interests of this country. I think it's in the
He's referencing Douglas Murray and Tommy Robinson being destabilizers. Where does he get that from? Where? No. They're just responding to what's going on in the country again. And for some reason, David is very protective of his precious Muslims.
Interests of a foreign nation.
Are you really looking me in the face and calling me a destabilizer working for vested interests?
No, I said they are. I
Did
said
you
they are
invite me
destabilizing.
on your program to say that to my face?
I think you might be. I can't. You say you're not, but I can't say for definite you're not. I think anybody that works for any of these institutions, anyone that's involved with like the FPRI, any of these big multinational,
Yeah.
I just don't trust their motives.
Before you looked up my name, had you heard of FPRI?
Yes. All these different groups, all David Horowitz Freedom Center, Council for Foreign Relations, Atlantic Council, all these neocon warmongering organizations that have destabilized countries around the world. I mean, you mentioned the Arab Spring. I mean, the Arab Spring wasn't a spontaneous uprising. The Arab Spring was completely organized by the CIA and Mossad to destabilize these countries and destroy them.
No, you see, I mean, I don't know about Mossad. I mean, I agree, CIA, right? It was Obama, the whole, the deep, not the deep, the 1%, whatever. They would try, they intended to do this with the Middle East back in 2001. So, definitely was not spontaneous. And again, I agree, it definitely wasn't spontaneous. David Betts is wrong on this one. So
they weren't natural, they weren't spontaneous. They were controlled from Washington and Tel Aviv.
Wrong on this one. So
how do you know that?
Well, because of course they were. Do you think people just all of a sudden got up and started campaigning against Assad? All of the white helmets, all of these people, Libya. Look at what they did in Libya. Look at the way they got rid of Gaddafi. Isn't it funny how all the strongmen Arabs who were always opposed to Israel, Gaddafi, Saddam Hussein, Assad, look at the way that the Americans funded and supported all these terrorists in Syria. You've now got an ISIS terrorist who's now the president of Syria, and everyone's celebrating it. The only bulwark against Islamic extremism in the Middle East, the only leader that fought for Christians, and he was destabilized by Israel, by the CIA, by everyone, and they got rid of Assad. Because that's what they do, because they would rather have failed states in their border than have strong countries that can actually stand up to them.
But what is your evidence?
Well, the evidence is pretty clear. You just have to listen to what Benjamin Netanyahu says at congressional meetings. You just have to listen to what Netanyahu
About
does.
the Arab Spring?
Yes. Are you trying to tell me that they just spontaneously got together and went out? There wasn't text messages going out. There wasn't leaflets dropped. There wasn't
David, I'm not
NGOs on
I'm
the
not trying to
ground.
say that. I'm asking you what you are trying to say. In fact, if you're interested, but I'm rather detecting you're not, that the outbreak of these things is often a combination of spontaneity and non-spontaneity of planning. But I'm really curious, though. Why?
Well, all these wars tend to be involved with certain groups of people.
Explain how
Look at them.
the Arab Spring was perfectly non-spontaneous.
Well, because
what
the MI6
what did
were clearly...
Netanyahu say that led you to this belief?
Well, Netanyahu called for the overthrow of Saddam. He said that he was the biggest threat in the Middle East.
Saddam was not in Algeria. Arab Spring broke out.
Well, the Arab Spring, specifically Gaddafi. What about people like Salman Abedi's dad? That then went on to become the Manchester bomber, where he was working for MI6.
But let's go back to your thesis about it being Netanyahu.
Well, not specific. I mean, I'm saying interests,
CIA, Mossad,
certain special interests.
So but it's generally credited that the Arab Spring kicked off with the self-immolation.
I'm going to say the Arab Spring. This is the only time I agree with David on this, except I don't think Israel. I don't know. I definitely know that the US was behind, and the UK and whatever, right? With this whole the intention of to create this forced need to get the mass flux of people into the West. It's all part of the 1% plan. So I don't agree with David Betts on this one. He thinks it was natural. No, it wasn't.
Of an Algerian
Well, that may have been the spark.
market trader. This is not true.
That may have been the spark that started it, but I think it's pretty clear that when these things happen, the intelligence agencies then get involved. As I said, the bombing of Libya by NATO. I mean, that was kind of big in overthrowing Gaddafi, was it not? You know, that wasn't a spontaneous uprising. Was it not the NATO bombing that caused that?
You said the word spark, but you said the word spark, right? So, I mean, if you use the word spark in the context of the discussion we're having about societal uprising, then you accept that there is this important thing called the tinder or the conditions, right?
Correct.
So this,
who lights the match?
A spark in a soaking wet forest isn't going to spark. It isn't going to light anything. You accept my point of view?
Yes, but someone still has to light the match.
And so if someone comes along and says the tinder, the conditions for the reception of a spark exist in a place, then you're offended by this conclusion. Why? Because of some intrinsic specialness of the UK?
Well, yes, because it's really not.
Because we're not like we're not like Algeria.
No, we're not. We're not. We're a superior
Russia,
country. We're superior
France,
to these countries. Yes, we're superior to them.
In the sense of
superior,
who we are as a people. We don't go out and start just killing each other. We have a higher IQ level than that. We try and solve things civilly.
And of course, it's not talk about English people doing it, right? It's Islam. Islam's been brought in order to create this. Okay, there's an animosity. There's people who are willing to commit acts of violence for their cause, and this is the point. I mean, it's like the elephant in the room that David misses completely. It is not the English. No, not ready to rise up. Absolutely not. As flat as a pancake. In fact, there's no danger whatsoever, in my opinion, of there being any natural revolution in this country. No. Just not in. Not. There's just too many people too fast asleep and completely self-involved. Right? It's just beyond the beyond. So in this instance, again, I disagree with David Betts. There is no tinder lit ready for a match to be struck. David Clues is just all about Israel, Zion, and Mossad and Zion, and Israel and Netanyahu. You know, it's just so weird how but it gives a free pass to Islam. Free pass to Islam. Doesn't get it. I mean, it's so obvious.
That was always a British way of doing it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Who's we now? Who is we now?
Britons. I mean, if you want me to be blunt about it, white Europeans. Mm-hmm. Whereas in these countries, they tend to go out and want to just start killing each other, hacking heads off, you know, behaving in all sorts of barbaric ways. It's not how we tend to do business here. We try and do it in a more civilized way.
I mean, he's completely missing all the crime rates in this country have gone through the roof because of Islam. 99%, I would say. And you have apparently drug gangs. Very little is caused by the indigenous population. There are crimes committed by the indigenous, by people individually, but it's so obvious that the people being brought into this country are of a very much lower IQ, and they use their fists first and ask questions later. So, you know, it's just weird how detached Clueless is about the dynamics of the country we're living in. Anyway.
Well, I appreciate your point of view, particularly your quaint notion of the continuing existence of a collective we in Britain.
Well, I think it's still.
which
I
was
think it still
pretty much
exists.
which was pretty much precisely my point around the diminishment of pre-political loyalty and the triumph of identity politics.
Yes, and I'm not, as I said, I'm not debating with you about the circumstances that exist for this
There's 5 more minutes of this, and then we'll be almost finished with him.
to happen. My argument is we must do everything we can to try and avoid that because of the
No
consequences
shit.
of doing it.
Yeah, who's
Yeah.
we?
We.
We Britons, people that live in this country, Europeans in general, we should avoid those who like to. We'll take the Ukraine conflict with Russia then. Who do you think was who in your opinion was responsible for that?
Do tell.
Well, was the main instigator of that, and if we're being blunt again about it, the Soros Foundation involved in Ukraine, Victoria Nuland, whose maiden name was, Noodleman, Anthony Blinken, Zelensky. Do you not think it's odd that all the pivotal figures involved in the Ukraine war happen to be ethnically Jewish? Does that not strike you as
Jewish.
odd for
Oh, here we go
supposedly
again.
16 million people? That the architects of the war are all ethnically Jewish.
Yes. Oh,
No, I didn't observe that. But, I have written quite a lot on the Ukraine war and the causation of that. It isn't what you asked me to come on to
No,
to
but
talk about.
we've got on to that, and I said it's just a pattern that I see emerging with most of these conflicts. That there are certain special interests, and Grant Shapps, who was the defence secretary at the time, who wanted to put British troops on the ground in Ukraine, said that my family had to flee Russia due to anti-Semitic pogroms. Do you not think there's something odd about having a defence secretary who harks back to pogroms in the 19th century as a reason to put British troops on the ground in a conflict in Eastern Europe? Is that not a bit odd?
I think that the war in Ukraine was provoked by NATO expansion, and have written so fairly extensively. Although I must admit I haven't examined the words and writings of Grant Shapps in that matter.
Well, yeah, NATO expansionism, as I said, to deal with Russia. Again, I just look at many of the figures involved, like Bill Browder. You heard of Bill Browder? Prominent on social
No.
media. Gary Kasparov.
No.
Gary Kasparov.
No. Or Gary Kasparov, I know, is a chess player.
Igor. Do you not think it's odd again? Igor Kolomoisky, who's the largest, one of the largest plutocrats in Ukraine, biggest funder of the Azov battalion, and he's also Jewish. Is that not a bit odd that a Jewish person would fund the Azov battalion, who, quite frankly, embrace neo-Nazism?
Sure, sounds odd. What does that have to do with the question you've asked me to appear on your show for?
What I'm saying is I think the notion of a coming civil war, and again, maybe this is just confirmation bias, but it'll be the same group of people who push wars in Ukraine, the same people that push wars in the Middle East. It'll be the same people who are pushing a war in Britain as well, because it's these people basically every single time.
the Jews, which you might be right about.
And my concern is that you
Yeah.
have maybe innocently come to
Your concern. Oh, do state your concern. Sorry.
is
to
that
interrupt
you who have come to this analysis of what's going to happen will be used and exploited by this very special group of interests to
No.
push for a civil conflict in this country, which will likely be between indigenous Britons and Muslims. You saw it during the Southport riots, where they framed it as a battle between Britons and Muslims.
Southport riots were a big fat fake red flag, right? But there was January 6th, just so you know. It was undercover police and lefties for the narrative that the police wanted, that the government wanted, okay? English people didn't take the streets for that. They would have done it for the Manchester bombing, which was a lot bigger. They would have done it for the raping gangs. They would have done it for all kinds of other things. This was just a timely thing because the government has been passing laws and draconian stuff, right? So, but here's the David thing, what he says about, I mean, it's crazy. Let me just do that little bit again. I promise I won't go back too far about the Southport riots and about this Muslim thing and English thing, as if that's not going to be a thing that's going to happen, David. Caused and initiated by Muslims.
And my concern is that you, who have maybe innocently come to
do state your concern. Sorry.
Is that you who have come to
this
analysis of what's going to happen will be used and exploited by this very special group of interests to push for a civil conflict in this country, which will likely be between Indigenous Britons and Muslims. You saw it during the Southport riots, where they framed it as a battle between Britons and Muslims. You had gangs of Muslims with machetes. I mean, you talk about the rape gang epidemic.
Yeah. How about that, David?
Which is clearly real, which has clearly hurt a lot of people.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
at the same time,
what?
People will piggyback on that, and they will use that to get people angry.
Oh my days. Do you know when that was 8 years ago when it all came out properly, published? It didn't happen. There was no, I mean, to my shock, I was horrified at the apathy and the lack of concern with when the truth was coming out and couldn't be held back. Do you know, if somebody gives a reason, if somebody initiates an attack and a response is given as a result, a direct result of that attack, that should be expected. And it's not the people who retaliate against the attack who should be held accountable. Okay? So if the one side didn't, like Islam, wasn't attacking and wasn't doing this horrific violence against peaceful people, innocent people, then they're the ones who are creating the problem by their actions. It's not some Jewish overlord from Tel Aviv, pushing them to do this. This is where David misses the whole point. They have a responsibility for their actions, David, clueless. Why are you protecting them? Why are you not calling it out properly and making a stand? Why are you saying, oh, well, yeah, there's a few raping gangs, but, you can't respond to that. You've just got to let them do it because, it's part of the culture. Or you can't be cross. Because if you are, then you'll what? That is a typical weird lefty rationale. If somebody attacks you, you have a right to attack back, and you should not be considered the culprit or the one responsible for the problem. It's the initiator. And in this instance, we have Islam being enabled by our government. They've brought in with a Trojan horse. So yeah, there's like a sort of this master plan, but at the same time, the army that has been brought in, they are willing participants. So if you could just see that the Muslims, Islam, need to, well, that's the whole purpose of them being here, is to conquer. And our own government has betrayed us on that aspect. So I just don't understand. David's reasoning is just so twisted that I don't know what it is. There's something seriously, he's not being honest. He's absolutely got an agenda that is clearly, whether he's hope not hate, hate not hope, there's something about him where he's trying to control things, which he has no business of dictating how people feel. But that's what he's trying to do. And to suggest that a professor's paper, a theory on how revolutions happen, is somehow galvanizing, an unsuspecting Englishman to just suddenly stand up and say, oh, well, if he says there's going to be a civil war, we better have a civil war. I mean, it's the most idiotic stance that you could ever possibly come up with, David Clueless.
angry about what is what
But
is
don't
happening. And
respond.
as I said, I see all angry, which is clearly real, which has clearly hurt a lot of people.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At the same time, people will piggyback on that, and they will use that to get people angry about what is happening. And as I said, I see all these people that talk about the rape gangs. It's the people who opened the hen house to the fox are the very people who then turn around and offer you the solution. I just find it quite frustrating.
That's absolute rubbish. Completely rubbish. Total rubbish.
Okay. I'm sorry you find that frustrating.
I'm going to tell you, okay? I've got to show you, okay? Just on a lighter note, this is who David Betts, right? At this stage, now remember, this is an hour and 40 minutes into this I don't know, torture. And the body language that David Betts is having or showing or doing or whatever reminds me of this. Okay, get ready. Watch. I mean, it just so coincidentally happens to be of this particular individual, but
Alles in Ordnung. Wir können den Gruppenführer Fegelein nirgendwo finden. Er ist nicht in der Bunkeranlage.
The glasses. I'm sorry.
Den Gruppenführer Fegelein nirgendwo finden. Er ist nicht in der Bunkeranlage.
Von allen Anfang an!
Wir können den Gruppenführer Fegelein nirgendwo finden. Er ist nicht in der Bunkeranlage.
Anyway, sorry, it was just the glasses thing. You know, he just looks so exasperated at this stage. He's on his final nerve is being pinged. He's had enough. Poor guy.
I appreciate your warning.
Yeah, thanks. You patronizing little git.
As I said,
I don't know really. Yeah,
Had you not thought that
No,
is
David.
it not a bit odd that all these people are just clamoring to have you on
You
their
keep
show?
saying, is it not a bit odd? Is it not a bit odd? That's not a very effective question.
Okay, well, let me try.
You asked me to come on to speak about a bit of research that I had done and have written up, and have asked very little about that in substance, in fact, and mostly have looked at the sky or whatever it is you're looking at when your eyeballs roll up, and asked me, "Is it not a bit odd?" and asked me to reflect on your theory. I don't care about your theory, okay? And I didn't come on to reflect on that. It would have been awesome to speak about the issue, about the issues at hand, from the perspective that I'm able to speak. But that's not what occurred.
But the only way that what you are arguing will happen is if that idea is implanted in the minds of people.
What?
I am saying, even though you're an academic and you work for King's College London.
Yeah, important.
As I say, I don't.
Important factors.
I don't buy what you're selling. I think that if there is a civil war,
it
will be because
it
has been in. You ever seen the film Inception with Leonardo DiCaprio, where they put ideas in people's head? It will only happen because it is an idea
Wow.
that has been put into people's head.
That's how dumb he thinks people are. Really? David Clueless? Really?
That's an interesting theory.
Oh my days. Talk about insulting an entire nation's intelligence in one statement. I mean, he thinks that English people, he defended English people, but saying how intelligent and how civilized we were. But apparently, right there, he suggested that because a professor at a King's College, who nobody's ever heard of, has produced a paper talking about how civil wars start, that is going to ignite a revolution by the English people because nobody's gonna read it, but somebody's gonna read it. They're gonna say, "Oh my God, this is what's happening. We are ready. We're at a tipping point, everybody. So let's go. Let's have our civil war." I mean, it just beggars belief that David is this far gone in his mental state. David Clueless, that is, where he is so fixated in his own mind on what he sees as real that he can stretch it to that ridiculous to come up with it. And this poor professor wonders what the hell he let himself in for, who the hell he's talking to.
And that's it. Well, listen, Professor Betts, as you've given up an hour and 40 minutes of your time, I do appreciate you coming on. I thank you for not running off, because a lot of people sometimes will just cancel the interview and go away.
I wonder why.
I hope we've done this in good faith.
No, you haven't.
I have
No.
found it exceptionally interesting. As I say, I think you have come to the conclusion with good faith, but I think a lot of bad faith actors are now involved.
Oh my gosh, he keeps on saying it.
Again, it's up to you to decide.
Oh my
moving
gosh.
forward, what happens with that?
You
Are
patronising
you on social media? Do you have any
git.
books or anything that people can read or follow with your work?
It's like, shut
I'm
up.
Very easy to find through the normal routes. I write academic books. If people are interested in reading academic books, they can find them very easily through a simple Google
Academic
search,
paper.
or find my staff webpage.
Not a revolutionary
Okay,
manifesto.
well, listen, Professor Betts, thank you so much for coming on tonight and giving up your time. My audience have certainly enjoyed it, and they value your sticking it out. It's been a marathon. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Good night. Bye-bye. If we can get some D's, please, in the chat.
Oh,
please,
D's,
for David
please.
Betts, and thanks
D's,
again
please.
to him for coming on the show. It is greatly appreciated. So, I don't know how people thought of that.
Car crash. It was a car crash. It was just absolutely disingenuous. It was disgusting and embarrassing to watch you just behave in such a disreputable manner. And as much as I disagree with the professor's theories, at least he should have discussed them. I mean, David Clues, honestly, what an absolute joke. And to think, I say, once upon a time, I used to give him the time of day, because, there were certain topics that I agreed with him about. And Dong says he didn't run off because he fell asleep. I think he was just fascinated. He was so shocked. He was stunned. He was stunned with the sort of weird twisting of the logic, which was illogical. I mean, it just wasn't there. So, I mean, what did you think? What do you reckon on how that went with that poor professor? I mean, I don't like professors, to tell you that this day and age, I have no time for professors at the best of times. But to be honest with you, I thought that professor was at the height of control and well, he kept his cool. He probably did a lot of deep breathing. Anyway, it was the most bizarre thing, and it just shows, as far as I'm concerned, David has an agenda. David has an agenda, and it's not. It's just. And Mike and Clownball said the white paper and the theory is that the catalysts are possibly in place for a civil war, but it's just an academic paper. It wasn't a call to arms, and it's certainly, it's just a weird one. It's very odd, and I just felt I needed to just, And David has, what has he got? I mean, it's just bizarre. The numbers David has, I don't know who. He's got a lot of sycophants who follow him. I don't know who they are. A lot of them are probably, a lot of them might be jihadis. I mean, who knows? He has 5.2 thousand followers on Rumble. And considerable, what did he got on D Live? Wait a minute, who just died? Oh, God. Another one's gone. Another jib jab. Oh, No, I can't. I don't care. I don't know. He's got a very. How many has he got? Hang on. D Live. Let's see. Yeah, anyway, so tonight is Friday, and I just said I needed to just finish that one up because I'm just so horrified by how he behaved. He's so demented now. And it's the sort of thing where, let's just say, right? So I'm going to just do a comparison. If you think about, let's just say your house, you're in your house, right? And just relaxing. But you suddenly notice that there's a bit of smoke in the corner. And, right? There's a bit of smoke. The smoke is appearing in the corner of the room. Now, the question is, a sensible person, right? I'm trying to find out where this Unity Stupid News Network is, but it's not coming up. It's coming up in the category. I don't know how many followers he's got. Like I don't know on D Live. But anyway, so just say there's a fire starts, right? You notice some smoke in the corner of the room. Now, what does a sensible person do? A sensible person, I would say, would go and get some water and chuck it on the smoke. Put it on whatever's smoking, and if it's a fire starting, obviously, there's no smoke without fire, you put it out, right? And then what you do is you try and figure out how it started. Right? Now, in David Clueless's mind and his world, David will see a bit of smoke there, and rather than put it out, investigate where the smoke's coming from and maybe put out what looks like the start of a fire, he'll decide that somebody started that. Somebody was responsible for the fire, and he wants to find out who it was, right? He's going to ignore the smoke. He wants to go find out who started that fire, and he's going to whatever. Meanwhile, the smoke turns into flame. The flames rise, but David's not going to put that fire out. He's not going to address the that issue. He wants to find out who was behind it, and he's going to be convinced that it was Mossad, Zionism. Right? And this is what I see with him, with Islam, in this country. In David's tiny mind, in his fixated mind, he thinks that the jihadist, the Islamic situation has been caused by the Zionist overlords, and that they've put them all here in order to cause a problem. And he doesn't want to deal with their behavior. He doesn't want to deal with the actions and activities of these individuals who are committing horrendous crimes on a level never before known in this country. No. He wants to blame who he believes is responsible for them being here. And that doesn't make sense. You can do both, by the way. There's a possibility. How about doing both? How about putting the fire out and finding out who was behind it, if there was somebody behind it? But don't just ignore it and go off, which is what David does. He's desperately protecting the Muslims of this country, and it doesn't make any sense. They're a threat to the future. They are procreating. They are going to definitely outnumber the indigenous population, and we know by their track record, by their behavior in other countries that they have gone into, and as victims, as the minority, and over time what they've done is they've grown in number, and then they start to make demands, and then they cause things, and then they take over, like Lebanon, Syria, the Middle East, outside of the places like the UAE and Saudi Arabia, and the bigger, more prosperous countries. Anyway, it's all say the reason why I'm so pissed off with it is because I used to believe that I thought David was a good guy. I thought David Clues was a good guy. I thought he cared about this country. I thought he was concerned about the people of this country. But he, to me, is he's a control. He has control of controlling, bad-mouthing people who are concerned and discounting their concerns, blaming them, but acting as though he's the... I just don't get it. I've never understood him. He'll admit that there's a problem, but he won't point a finger in the right place. Right now, how are we doing, everybody in the chat? It's Friday night. It's 10:36. Unfortunately, I am... Well, I'm going to see what let me see, hold on. I'm just taking a look at something quickly. I don't know if there's any updates on what happened in Hamburg. Check. I'm just going to look at the chat at the moment. Jump to my channel. Let's see. So Donald Trump is doing... Look at the migration path, yeah. All right. Let's see. Where are we? Georgia O'Connor, 25, dies in devastating blow for British boxing. 25-year-old, well, it's a jib jab, isn't it? The bioweapon. Now, I understand with the MAHA, with the Make America Healthy Again, that there's new... Well, I do know there's a paper that's been produced, and I'm going to grab it. And yeah, people might find this interesting, and perhaps we could... well, nothing's going to happen here until it's never going to happen here, I'm afraid. No. Miracles need to happen in this country for anything positive to happen, for the government to give a rat's behind about this, the people of this country, because of course they spent their time trying to bump everybody off from 2020 onwards. So America is very, very fortunate, the American people, and they've produced what's called the MAHA report. I'm going to look at it over the weekend. It's directed to say make our children healthy again. It addresses the jib jabs. It addresses diet and additives to food and chemical exposures and all kinds of stuff from the environment. I think it's a great start to trying to save the future for America as a whole, right? Of course, I wish that they just stopped all the injections altogether completely, for starters, and not just, doing it piecemeal. But again, everybody feels it has to be done at a certain rate of speed. All right, so now, so that's, did I put that link in there? Hold on, let me just see. I've got so many windows open right now. My computer screen is completely out of control. So let me just shut a few of my open windows. I'm going to grab the link to that document and put it into the chat. If I can find the chat now, because as I said, I've got so many windows. Now, put a 1 in the chat if you think I should... Well, I'm going to probably just go into my local town tomorrow and see how the Great British National Strike is going. I don't think I'm going to go to I'm not going to go to London. I think that would probably be asking for trouble. Not that I'm worried about trouble, don't get me wrong, but I really hadn't prepared for this. So let me put the link to that MAHA document in the chat. Donald Trump signed a few executive orders tonight, which again I haven't had a chance to check. It's Memorial Weekend. Memorial Day weekend, which again, once upon a time I used to be concerned about or think about these things, but Now I realize, when you realize that everything has been orchestrated and all of history has been twisted, and all these poor innocent soldiers died because of bankers' wars, which is what they all are, right? There is this thing. Well, no, actually, no. To be fair, I'm gonna contradict myself now. I say, look, the people who sacrificed their lives for what they believed was the cause for freedom, they have to be acknowledged and remembered and appreciated. So, let me I'm trying to chase my screen around. I'm going to tell you now, with regards to the Hamburg atrocity with the jihadist attack, which I'm going to call it as a jihadist attack, I'm going to say, in my opinion, I would think that it was a bloke with a big fat machete just lashing out at innocent people, because that's what the jihad calls for. If it happened, because I'm not convinced, it could just be a story to try to rile people up, because the governments want to get people all agitated and riled up just so that they can slam everybody down and accuse everybody of being extreme right-wing, a bit like David Clueless. So, I say, I haven't seen enough evidence of there having had been an attack. And say, the day and age we live in now, who knows? They could just be saying it just to get everybody agitated. So I'm going to see if there's any more footage. And I keep on saying about Donald Trump, God bless him. Thank God he's in power. He did an incredible job with the South African president. He really, 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 I was so impressed. It was just the best takedown of that son of a bitch. And of course, the fake stream media news behaved in their usual despicable way. But do people not think it's odd that all that's out there so far still, or unless I'm missing something, just this short 6, 7, or 8 second clip of somebody being whisked to a prison van, that stretcher doesn't smell right. And now it's July 24th, 2024. So this is 3 hours ago. Mass stabbing in Germany. 12 minutes. Same video clip. Put one if you agree that is a bit odd. Oh wait, are you seeing it, or am I showing you this? Yeah. Anybody have any news? Oh, hang on. This is old. Oh, that is old. Yeah, June 16th, 2024. I was right. And this is a very deceptive thing with X. And it used to be with Twitter, where they mix things around date-wise, and it's very difficult to find up-to-date stuff. So here's a message from somebody saying, Hamburg, Germany, stabbing area, my story. NFL comedy skit says, I'm a 3-minute walk from Hamburg train station since I'm currently working in Hamburg, Germany. For anyone that reads this, there are a lot of migrants by the train station, and there's a street called Steindamm where you would think you were somewhere in the Middle East. Oh, it's familiar in many cities in the West now. There are a bunch of drug addicts and sketchy people here. I've seen firsthand people selling drugs, and that's not even the worst part. I witnessed a migrant having sex with a German woman in the middle of the street. She had a cast, and we thought she needed help, but looked like she agreed to it. They were both drugged out of their mind. Me and 3 other guys interfered to stop it because it sounded like she was screaming, but was only laughing. Outside of that area, it's beautiful and it changes completely, but in that street and the train station close to each other, it's really like being in a Middle Eastern country. I don't have a say in their politics because I'm not from here, just currently doing some work, but Germany, you had a chance to change this and you chose to keep it going. My question is why? Sab has been speaking about this. Video below is of the beautiful rich part of Hamburg, but I will record the bad part of the people of X want to see what that looks like. Same images. Again, this is from the 14th of October. See, they've intermixed images. So here's apparently blood from the train. Alright, so usual suspect, in my opinion. Trying to make out that it's a woman. The media will completely stomp on this and not draw attention to it as they've done with South Africa because, of course, it's the wrong skin color. Yeah. I'm fed up. I'm fed up with the whole situation, and I can't wait for the crypto to come through. I really can't, ladies and gentlemen. It's very sad. There's not enough people really. And by the way, people of Germany didn't vote for that. The elections in Europe are still, and in most parts of the world, are fixed. Okay, there's a dirty election system. The people of this country did not vote for Keir Starmer. Newsflash. Okay, people aren't voting. None of our votes count. They decide who's going to be in power. It's as simple as that. And so nobody's asking for their countries to be destroyed. They are actually powerless at the moment to rectify the situation because people who want the one world order, one world government, the Agenda 2030 are still controlling the elections for the most part. I mean, I guess El Salvador managed to get Bukele in. Some people are seeming to manage to get him in, but I think in the big Five Eye countries, we're screwed. All right. Right. I think that's it, really. I don't have... Let me just check my notes. See where I am here. I think I've pretty much covered what I was planning to do. And, typo. Let me just check the XRP price tonight. You know, sooner it's coming. It's going to happen. The whole XRP, well, crypto market is going to just explode. Everything's being put in place. All the wheels are being put in motion. And the rails have been put in place. They're already there. They're just getting everything just tickety-boo. And then they're just going to flip. Where is mine? Alright, so at this moment in time, the markets are red. Bitcoin, they've dropped. The market's dropped down to 3.41 trillion. Bitcoin's at 108,550 and XRP's at 233. So holding steady. Definitely nothing very exciting tonight to write home about, but the time is coming. And I know, Aquaria, I want it to happen, just seriously, you know, and the thing is, it is when, okay? And it's getting ever closer as that bill goes through, the Genius Act goes through, President Trump signs it. It's just, let me just tell you, the excitement, the mood of the people who are involved with the crypto space in XRP really is very positive, right? And let's see. Top US banks are about to issue a joint stablecoin. So I'm just going to grab the link to this one. It really is. I mean, I know it's so hard because we want it to happen so badly. You know, it's not going to happen soon enough. But it's just literally, if you have your crypto safely, not on exchanges, you're in the right place. Okay. So I just put the link to that in the show in the chat. Thank you for being with me tonight, ladies and gentlemen. It's again bank holiday weekend. I may turn out to go to Brighton tomorrow to check out what the big national strike is, which is just a big fat nothing burger. Of course, I will be looking for what the police are up to. I won't be getting involved. And thank you, UK Neil, for telling me that place called Lisburn is in actual fact in Northern Ireland. So, Mike and Clownworld, thank you for being with me tonight. Beach Bear Troubles, thank you for being here. I really do appreciate your company. Snapbrim Handcrank, thank you, Aquaria. And Dong, thank you, Sean Joe, for the cookie. Appreciate the cookies, in fact. And Mr. Pete for the can. And obviously UK Neil in Rumble. Base T, as always, it's been a pleasure. And I hope you all have a fabulous weekend. Stay safe. Monday is a bank holiday. And I guess it's Memorial Day. So have a good weekend. I hope the weather holds up, but they have been chemtrailing us up the wazoo for the last few days, so I don't think it's supposed to be well, I don't think it's going to be very fabulous weather. Oh, actually, yeah, trust me. If it tips it down with rain tomorrow, I'm not going anywhere outside. So listen, have a wonderful weekend. I really hope you do, and we're going to be positive. We're going to stay positive, and we're going to let me see, Trump. I'm going to focus on what he is doing, and see what he said, the advice he gave to the UK. He said, our negotiated deal with the United Kingdom is working out well for all. I strongly recommend to them, however, that in order to get their energy costs down, they stop with the costly and unsightly windmills and incentivize modernized drilling in the North Sea, where large amounts of oil lay waiting to be taken. Yes, they do. A century of drilling left, with Aberdeen as the hub. The old-fashioned tax system disincentivizes drilling rather than the opposite. UK's energy costs would go way down and fast. I mean, it's just that the government in this country hates the people, does not want us to be comfortable. They want to tax us up the wazoo. They want to get rid of us. I mean, it is obvious. So, unfortunately, President Trump's sage advice is going to fall on deaf ears because the goal of this government is not to look after the people. Now, I did spot, I referenced a young girl who passed. Where is it? A 25-year-old girl. I don't know where she is, a boxer. Sorry about that. I had the story about this poor boxer, a 25-year-old who passed. I'll take a look at that. It looks like Billy Joel has got a brain disorder, disease. He probably took the jib jab. A lot of people, unfortunately, are succumbing or being affected by the jib jab of death, which, of course, should be stopped. And I think that's about it. All right, Linda, I'm going to finish it there. I hope you have a fabulous weekend. And I will catch you in the next one. So remember, if you tolerate this, then your children will be next. Until Monday. Based Amy. Out.
In UK Parliament, in fact, during a Treasury Committee session,
misses. Bastard, he got me. I got duped, Abe. Dave Portnoy put out a tweet or an article, his Barstool Sports, and it said, the WNBA is going to start banning fans from booing. And because the WNBA is so stupid, I just kind of figured, well, that makes sense. I was like, yeah, I'm not shocked at all. All of these real soft, ugly chicks over here who can only make a living poorly playing basket hoops because the NBA, like an absent father, pays them alimony. They make no